Start session 3. What's up, man? Sorry. Okay. What were you gonna say before I interrupted you?
Um, all right. So one, I have a lot of questions that I have prepared, and two, I'm a bit of an oddball case because I'm like kind of high MMR as a support player, but like only a support player. So my core and carry playing is actually abysmal.
Okay.
So I've been working on that, playing safe lane because it's easier for me to play safe lane than mid. Okay,
Easier to play safe lane than what? You cut off for a
than
second.
mid.
Okay. And is there more to it? Are you cutting out or you're
No, I'm
okay?
just like press talking.
Okay. Gotcha.
I have a few replays on my Smurf. One is like a party game, so I don't know if you care, but it's still like the same kind of thing. It's interesting because I think I played against Smash on his Smurf as well when he was playing with his viewers or something,
Okay.
and yeah, so I will
What
send you
MMR
the
are
ID.
you as a support?
6.6.
Okay, so quite high. Okay. But you're so my description of this in my mind is a 6.6k support that's trying to learn more about core. Like that's how I
Yeah,
feel. So this is a unique session. So I think some I don't remember who it was, but a very high level pro support basically said one of the most important things as a support player is knowing or understanding what a core is supposed to do. Right? Like it is very important for you to have that. And so I think this is a good move that you're making, even if you intend to always be a support player, um, forever. I think it's still important that you are able to understand core heroes. For me, I feel like it's helped expand my knowledge of Dota and understanding of Dota and how to play core heroes by understanding how to play support heroes. Like, not mechanically necessarily, but like conceptually, what supports are trying to do. Like, what are they concerned about? What's going through their mind? And if you're this core player and you have a support ruin your lane in 12 different ways, doesn't that help you, play support? Because
yeah.
you're seeing how that support player is ruining your lane. So I'm just giving that as my pretext. I know that's probably about what you're thinking, about why you're trying to move to core a bit. Like you're just trying to familiarize yourself with the core role. And for me, I think the mid lane is the most isolated role. Like I think you're doing the right thing where it's easier to become like from a support to a core or core to a support. It's much easier to just be a safe laner or an off laner that can go either way. Um, because you're already laning with supports, right? Like you already have
Yeah, like
supports
the
in your
side
games.
lane rules are much easier for me to understand.
Yeah,
By the way, you're gonna need to share screen before we forget.
yeah, I got
Um,
you. Oh, you already gave me an ID. My bad. I was just
yeah,
busy talking about random shit.
like yeah, that's fine. So I make a lot of silly mistakes in terms of like mechanical things, but there are a lot of understanding things I'm here for.
Okay.
Laning stuff and pressuring and mid game stuff. So
Okay.
this party game, I am the Drow, and I think Smash is the Axe player
So this is a
because
part. This is your party MMR. Is why it.
that's my Smurf account that I
Oh,
made
okay.
for.
So what MMR are you playing at to try to learn core?
This is like 3,500.
Okay. So
So
I'm just putting that in the title so people understand what you're trying to do to get better. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm simply saying like I do believe it's similar to what I'm doing. Like I'm trying to learn Pugna and shit, and I'm not gonna do that on my main because I'll just drop a bajillion MMR trying to learn Pugna. It's not gonna make me any better. So go ahead and say what you're gonna say.
in terms of laning, I have a lot of questions. One is
Okay.
like the balance between creep equilibrium and like when do I care about that? And another thing is like, if I'm like playing jug or something, right? And you get like a power spike at 3 when you get level 2 spin, but not at level 2. So it's kind of awkward, right? If like the enemy team gets like a power spike at level 2, and then like how
Are
do you
you playing
manage
Jug
that?
or Drow here?
I'm playing Drow. But I'm just saying in general, like how you deal with
Okay.
like the power spikes. Like Drow doesn't even have a power spike, right? Like till
Yeah.
like way later, but like the enemy team does, right? So
Yeah.
like
Um.
how do you think about that?
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I got you. So yeah, heroes like Jug, they don't, like you said, they don't hit power spikes at level 3. Like, yeah, the spin's nice, like the cooldown and shit, and the little bit more damage, but there's no significant power spike. So, the way I think about power spikes is I think, what does that power spike, first off, when does it come, and why? So, like, meaning when I say why, is what does that power spike mean? Like, can the guy kill me? Can he outdamage me? What can he do? Like, can he harass me? Like, what does that power spike mean for him? And so, if it means they can kill me, then I'm going to have to worry about my positioning more. Maybe play safer in the lane. If it means they can out CS me or out trade me, maybe I have to use a lot more creep aggro to try to drag creeps away from them. If it means, like, whatever it is, like, I'm trying to counterplay whatever's giving them this advantage, okay? If it means I can't fight them, what would I do as a support if the power spike means I can't fight them? If I'm a support hero. You're 6.6k support, so I'm asking from your perspective. Like, if I can't fight these two heroes in lane because they're stronger than us, what am I going to do?
I would just like try and get the knives.
I would pull.
I don't know. Pulling doesn't feel good this patch.
Okay, so if I can't fight the enemy dual lane because their two heroes are stronger than our two, what's the only way to deal with it?
Yeah, you could pull.
You separate them, right? You make their two heroes not be together anymore. Like, that's the only thing you can do, right? So my point is, every play, it's like, why are they stronger than us? Is it stronger because they're two together? Are they stronger because the lane's at their tower? Are they stronger because they do more damage? Can they shove the lane into us? Like, if their advantage means that it's a Necrophos trying to shove the lane into our tower, what might I do as a support if I can? Or a carry?
You're saying if they're trying to shove into my
If
tower.
Necro's strength, which it is manifested by pushing the lane, what's a great way to minimize the damage of him doing that?
Push back?
Yeah, do as much as I possibly can to push back, right? Whether that means creep aggroing creeps into my tower range so that they start getting hit by tower, or just sending casual right clicks at creeps when I can, right? Like, my point is, you have to think about, when you're thinking about these power spikes, you have to think about what the power spike means. And then you have to do whatever you think you can to minimize that power spike. Like, if it means they're shoving the lane, if it means they're out trading, like, if they're putting a lot of harass, then you have to fly yourself more regen. Like, if it's kill threat on you, you have to play safer. Like, whatever it is to minimize whatever they're doing. Like, that's how you have to think about power spikes. And that's the best advice I have in the current time. Like, with every hero, like, and if you're saying, say you're a Jug and you're in a lane that they're out harassing you, and you can kill them with phase boots, then you have to play incredibly passive, or like, for you as a Jug, you have to determine when their power spike ends based on what you understand about the power spike. So say you're a Jug against, let me think of a good example for this. A Jug against Necro. Am I ever out trading that guy?
No.
Okay. So the only way I can ever win the lane, if ever, is by killing him. So if that's the case, then I have to rush phase boots. But what if I'm so far behind that I can't ever get phase boots? What is... Meaning, okay, not that I can't ever get phase boots. I'm so far behind that by the time I get phase boots, he's 2 levels ahead of me. What is Necro going to do to apply his advantage? He's going to pressure my tower. So what kind of items can I buy to minimize that as a Jug? If he's going to apply a ton of pressure on my tower, what can I do? What do I need to be able to do to defend my tower?
You could spin the wave down when it goes to the tower, so you need like clarities for that.
You need like raindrops to prevent his harass. Yeah. You need maybe an Aquila as your first major item so you can sustain spinning over and over again, right? Like, you need to think, when I'm thinking Jugs, right? Like, okay, when people ask me treads or phase, like, I have the boots command for a reason. Like, when I'm playing heroes like Jug, if I know that I can't kill the guy, and I know that the only way I can play the lane is to defend my tower, and I know I'm going to have to spin every single fucking creep wave, otherwise I'm going to die, I know I need treads to be able to just spam spinning. Like, I need to keep spinning over and over again. So even though I'd rather have phase, I don't care. I can't play the game if I go to phase, right? Like, I can't defend my tower. I'll just lose my tower. I would rather keep my tower and have treads than lose my tower and have phase. You know what I'm saying? So, like, the reason why I'm pointing this out to you is you recognize what their advantage is. You have to ask yourself, when's it ever going to end? If it isn't going to end, how can I best minimize the damage that's going to happen? Because what happens is, generally in this patch as a carry, you're almost always going to lose your lane. Almost always. Like, you're going to be at some sort of disadvantage. So the goal is...
I wasn't sure if I was like just playing it really bad
This patch, you're going to lose your lane 80% of the time. Maybe more. And the point of that is to understand how to best minimize the damage. If you want to actually understand core role and staying an advantage this patch, if you want to learn how to play from behind and disadvantage, carry. If you want to learn how to play at an advantage and ahead, play offlane. Like, that's honestly how it goes. So, like, if you're playing offlane, if you want to learn how to play from ahead, you play Necrophos. If you want to play carry, you need to play heroes that minimize disadvantages and come back. Heroes like Drow do that. Like, she does always fall behind, but she is a good comeback hero by playing incredibly passive and enabling the rest of her team. In this game, sadly, you have Jug and Ember cores, which I don't know when you pick Drow, but somehow you're in a party MMR game and you have a Drow with 2 melee cores. But either way, my point is that this patch is all, like, carry roll just sucks in terms of you're always going to fall behind. So when I look at this game, I'm going to see you're pretty much, in my opinion, what I've seen is you're never at a power spike in a carry roll for the most part. And your goal is to recognize what their power spike is and minimizing it as much as possible. So we're going to see how you play this out. Pretty surprised you took the Frost Arrows too. But,
really?
Yeah, I've seen almost... I mean, I guess with 2 melee cores, maybe it's better.
My thinking was they're double melee and it's only 3 damage with level 1.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I'm not going to flame it. I don't even hate it. So... I understand. I know what you're going for, honestly. I'm not trying to, like, cut you off. It's not worth... I think that's player preference, and I'm not going to flame it. It's fine. So, you don't have a sentry from your Willow?
Yeah, I know. Okay. I told him to place it there. So, one thing is, how do I play if they have a salve? Or, you know, like, how should I think about that? Like, I mean, usually I would have a salve, but I cut it for double branch this game, but how should I think about that?
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. That's a good question, actually. So, if you have a... Okay, my question is, maybe you don't know, and that's why you're asking. If you have a salve, what do you think that means for you? Like, do you ever think from your own perspective, like, if you have a salve, what that means for you?
Yeah, it means I can trade my salve for theirs, or if they don't have one, then it feels bad for them. Unless I kill them, right? I feel like if I kill them, and, you know, they just come back, right?
Yeah. So my question is, like, by not having a salve, if you kill them here, are you not going to lose a lot of health?
I am going to lose a lot of health. Okay.
So by not having a salve, I feel like that pretty much means you're never going for kills. Because, like, going for heavily investment kills. What 2 tangos means to me is I'm going to consistently sustain throughout the course of this lane. That's what that means to me. If I get a salve, that means at some point in the lane I'm expecting to take a lot of damage based on them going on me, based on me taking a significant trade or some fight that turns into one of us dying, and if I live, I want the salve. The salve means that you're having a lot of damage being taken at once, while a tango means over time. That seems so simple, but when it comes to your lane, what that means is any engagement that you're going into, it immediately has to be your concern. If you don't have a salve and they do, how much damage each one of you is going to take. Because, especially against a Bloodseeker, in this lane specifically, I probably would have brought Double Tango and a salve, because you're against Bloodseeker. Like, specifically, against Bloodseeker, I would have bought a salve instead of, like, the 2 branches. Because, quite frankly, or probably instead of the circlet. Because if you're at low health, you're not just ruining yourself, but you're ruining your teammate's lane as well. So that's how, it's one of those things where if I have a salve, I'm willing to go in these trades much more, like, knowing that I'm going to lose a lot of health or potentially going to lose a lot of health. If I don't have a salve, I'm not willing to walk into situations where I could even potentially lose a ton of health. So, like, a perfect example of this would be, say I'm lifestealer against a centaur. A lot of that lane, I'm going to be trying to hit the guy. Okay? Like, I'm going to be trying to feast off of him because I win the trades. But against a hero like Centaur, if he has a support with him, at any point, if he stuns me and double edges me and the support hits me as well or stuns me as well, I'm going to drop a shit ton of health, right? Like, I'm going to lose a ton of health. And if that happens, the only condition for me to not be able to trade with him, because I trade better than him, is that he can kill me, right? So if his ability to win the lane is based on killing me, salves are much more valuable, because if I win the trades and he wins by killing me, the only way he wins the lane is if I'm not full health. So in that case, I'd much prefer to have a salve, because like if I'm against a centaur plus a 4 position, I'm going to go tango salve or double tango salve. There's going to be a salve in my inventory, because I don't want to not play aggressively on that centaur simply because I'm scared of having to drop to low health. Does that make sense? Like, it gives me that insurance to be willing to take... Okay, so the way I view it is, like, if I don't have that salve and the 4 position's there, I'm going to take a shit ton of damage and then I'm done. If I have that salve, I'm going to force them to prove to me that he's willing to stun me and the 4 position's constantly there. It basically gives me that one little leeway to consistently play aggressive until they prove that I can't. Does that make... It actually enables me to play aggressively the entire lane by having that salve.
All right, but how do you think about it if they also have salves? Then how, like, when do you ever trade yours for theirs, or how does that thought process go?
Oh, that's good. I mean, it's a good question. I don't even know if I can answer that question. It's like so unique in terms of like every matchup's different. I just think to myself, what situation's going to force me to salve? Okay, so I'm giving you the Centaur Lifestealer matchup again. If what position forces me to salve, and in this case, it's going to be me aggressively trading with the Centaur, he's going to stun me, and then I'm going to get hit by the support, and I'm going to take a lot of damage. Okay, you can see how I would map that out to myself. That's the situation that's going to force me to salve. If I am not in that situation, what do I have to do to... Like, what do I have to do as a laner to avoid that situation from happening? And if I'm asking myself as a lifestealer, I literally can't ever harass the guy to avoid that situation happening, then I'm going to be willing to trade my salve at any given point if that means that they're going to force me to use it. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
But if I'm the Centaur, I don't want to trade salves, but if you go on me, I'm still going to stun you and trade with you, and then I'm going to salve up. But I'm not going to try to have that situation happen. I don't really know a better way to explain it, to be honest with you. I'm trying to think of a better way to explain it, but that's... It's like, I try to envision the way that a salve is going to break on either hero, and how that affects the way I play the lane. So like I said, if I am trying to avoid using my salve as lifestealer in that situation, that means I can't ever hit the Centaur. And if I can't hit the Centaur, I'm just going to lose the fucking lane anyway. So I'm going to be willingly utilizing my salve if I have to. I'm going to be forcing the situation that makes me utilize my salve if it ends up happening. I don't know how else to explain it.
Right.
I can't think of a better way to explain it. Just mainly think about how you're going to have your salve be required to be used, and if that means that you're allowed to get a couple more CS, or that means, you know what I mean? Like, that's, like, what that does for you. Like, if I'm against, if I'm like, I'm trying to think. If I'm against a Legion Commander, and she nukes me down to 400 health or something, and I don't have a salve, and I'm this, like, melee hero, am I going to immediately try to trade with her after?
No.
No, right? Because I know that if she hits me down, I'll have to back off for a very long time while I'm regenning up, and I'll miss a few CS. But if I have a salve, I'm willing to hit her back, because if she chooses to man up on me, I can salve up later. But then you ask yourself, okay, BSJ, if you're willing to man up on her because you have a salve, and she has a salve too, what do? And that comes down to every single matchup, whose salve is more valuable. If I'm level 4 and she's level 3, whose salve is more valuable?
Hers.
Okay, there you go. That's a great... I'm glad you understood. When you're at the advantage, your salve is much less valuable to you. Like, it's just, that's how it is. Like, if you're at an advantage, you'd much rather force her to use her resources because your resources will be more efficient. So that's a great. I'm glad you knew that off the top of your head, so, or like you knew how to answer that. So that's something to consider. It's like if I'm at an advantage, that usually means that I'll have more CS. I'll gain more. Like be gaining more gold in the future. So if we both trade salves and we eventually both have to fly ourselves regen, I'm much more okay with that than she is. But yeah, so like in that case, like if I'm a troll against Legion and I have to man up on her or something, and I have a salve, I'm going to do it. But if I don't have a salve and I know that she hits me and bullies me away, then I can't do that. I literally, that one patch back when dual lane mids were really popular and you were solo safe lanes a lot, I played Lycan vs. Brew. And just to give you an example, and I was losing the 1v1. I would go into lane, that was back when Juan gave regen and shit. I would go double tango, stout, mango, double branch, like towards the wand. And I would lose the 1v1, and I'm like, dude, Lycan can't lane against Brood. And then I had like a lesson with 747, and he said, and we like did the matchup and played it out. He did it with a salve and won. And what I realized is, if the Brew has a salve and I don't, somewhere around like level 2 or 3, he's just going to clap me and man up on me. And if I choose to man up on him, we both lose 400 health, he salves and I lose. So I'm like, if my only choice is to man up on them when they do that kind of shit, and if I don't man up on them, I lose the fucking lane, and I need a salve to man up on them, then I'm going to buy a salve. Does any of that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
That's something I didn't realize. Like, I was losing the lane. I didn't really understand the importance of salves. That was like 7 months ago. So, like, when you asked this question, it was interesting to me because that's a question I had to ask myself, or I had to learn myself quite recently as well. And that's the dynamic of lane matchups, is knowing your method of winning the lane or not. And then is a salve necessary to enable you to do that? And if it is, you have to buy a salve. And that's something where that comes with a lot of trial and error. That's really all there is to it. You may not know. You have to make an educated guess whether or not you can go without a salve. And if you make the guess, and then you find yourself in a situation where you're like, man, I really needed a salve, there was nothing I could have done to prevent that situation from happening, then you need to buy a fucking salve. You know? So that's all there is to it about that. If you have any more questions, I'm going to continue watching. Feel free to ask.
Yeah, so how do I prioritize aggression and equilibrium keeping?
So my answer is that in dual lanes, equilibrium is way less important than aggression or trading or CSing. In 2v1, the only thing that matters is equilibrium, because you can actually zone them effectively. So if the creep wave's under their tower, their ability to get CS and stuff is way higher than if it's near yours. But in dual lanes, the position of the lane usually matters very little. If you're like sacrificing creeps and aggression in order to keep the lane at your tower in a dual lane, they'll just out CS you and you'll fucking lose. It doesn't matter that it's near your tower. So right now in the dual lane situation, I think it's actually fine that you guys play up here. Like at least trying to deny you. You can play on. You saw the trees over here. You can play like right here, and in this lane specifically, I think boots are incredibly important. Like my first item in this lane would be boots, 100% of the time.
Okay.
Because if you're right here, I don't think you can play here if you don't have boots. But if you're right here with boots, the way they're gonna kill you is what? How are they gonna kill you?
Tree hits me.
But if he isn't able to hit you because you're playing right here, how are they gonna kill you?
They run me down with Battle Hunger.
And Leech Seed. So,
yeah.
If that's how they kill you, do you see why I'm saying boots are so valuable in this lane?
Yes.
And that's how carry itemization works in the laning stage. How do they threaten me? Is it kills? Is it harass? How do I deal with it? Am I getting out CS because they do more damage than me? Are they out pushing me in my tower? Like, what are they doing to me? And in this case, I'm like, I'm very scared of dying, and it's all based on my positioning, and they're all movement speed slows. So I need to have boots. Like, I honestly don't care if I hit for 70 if they can just walk at me. I don't, you know what I mean? But in certain lanes, I don't care if they walk at me. If I hit for 80, I'll just trade with them. You know what I mean? Like, usually that's why a hero like PL goes Aquila over boots, because he doesn't really have that issue. He just doppelgangers away. He'd rather have that extra 19 damage to CS with than the 50 move speed, right? That's just how every hero is a bit different that way. So now, because of boots, you can't really walk up here. You notice that you're playing super passively. It's forced, but if you had boots, you could, honestly. And that's a very intricate understanding of the carry role that you need to have. Your positioning overall is very good, like in terms of trees to the right, so you're playing on this side. But your ability to play the lane, you need to think, what's stopping me from playing the way I want to play? And then you need to itemize and skill build accordingly. Like, if you don't take a fourth point, if you don't take a silence point at level 4, I'm going to be very upset. And do you know why I'd say that?
No.
Well, how do they kill you?
They run at me, and I guess
Yeah,
push with Gus and
you have
stuff.
to,
Yeah.
like, no value point is slow is worth it to not, like, it's so much more valuable to be like, oh, like, remember how I said about the salve? It allows me to have that oh shit moment. Maybe I messed up. Maybe I took a huge trade and then I salve up. Having a point in gust means I'm allowed to have that oh shit moment. Maybe I'm out of position. Maybe I'm allowed to play farther up because I have this gust. And I push the guy away from me, right? Like, and I get away because of it. That's,
yeah, I was just thinking of kiting him, but okay.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, like, I would go 2-1-2, but it would be 1-1-2, 2-1-2. That would be my skill build here. Because the kiting is very significant, but I'd much rather have an oh shit button than being able to kite them in this kind of lane. Because the lane's going okay, and okay, how would you gauge the importance of not dying in a lane? Like, how would you gauge the impact of a kill in the laning stage currently?
It depends on, like, if the other person can TP back and just get the XP or not.
So, if the type of kills, that is true. So the way I look at kills is, if that kill makes it more likely to kill me again, it is a disaster. Like, that's the worst kind of kill. Like, if me dying means when I come back to lane, it's even easier to kill me the next time. Does that make sense? So there was like an Arc Warden game on my Smurf where I died when I shouldn't have at level 3, and I was like, holy shit, this lane is fucking over. And I died like 3 more times because I couldn't do anything about it. And it was all because I misplayed to die at level 3. And it's like one of those things when you're playing these like squishy ranged heroes against these aggressive dual lanes, the minute you die once, it's like exponentially more likely to die again. So all of my thought process needs to be, I'm going to try to get as many CS as possible, but I'm going to make sure I don't fucking die in this lane. Because if I die here, this lane's actually over. Like, I won't be able to walk up ever again. That's how I'm looking at it. So I think Aquila's fine, but I think I need boots and then Aquila, and I need to be playing to not die in terms of skill build as well as item build. Because you're never going to really out-trade them. You can definitely throw in some harass in there, but you're not going to win this lane. Drow's purpose as a laner is, she's never going to really win, especially like against really good players. You're on your 3k Smurf right now, right? You're never going to win against a Triax with Drow, ever. So your goal is to get to level 6 with as minimal losses as possible. Minimal feeds, and minimal, like, or as much CS as possible. And make it as soon as possible. Like, make it so you're level 6 by 8 minutes rather than 11. That's the goal of being a carry as a hero like Drow. You're just minimizing your disadvantages. Because against good players, you're never going to win. I'm sorry, it's just how it is. So...
Okay, here's a question. Okay, so Tree left, but whatever. In a 2v2 situation where they're always going to get, like, the XP from the creeps, is it ever legal to, like, push the lane and then take the hard camp to the left? Or do I just...
In relevance to the hard camp at the left, I literally ask myself, if I'm hitting this and they come over and hit me, what happens?
I lose a salve and regen. And
I'm saying, like, who farms the camp? How much health do I lose? Can I bully them? Pretty much my response to the big camp this patch is, if you're farming it, you either need to be able to escape scot-free or be able to make them fuck off and, like, harass them away from you. If you can't do that, you don't farm the big camp. Period.
Okay.
Like, it's just not worth it. Like, if you know they come over and you're forced to walk away and they just get all the farm, I don't do it. I will not farm the big camp. In general, the big camp is complete dog shit in the safe lane right now. Like, you only farm it when you're in incredible advantage, or, like, the lane's under their tower and you have, like, 5 seconds to kill the camp, and there's nothing you can do to the guy in the lane. Like, it's very situational to farm the big camp. I think all about what the big camp's relevance is to the guy I'm laning against. Like, how much can they do to me if I go farm it? How much exposure am I? Like, if I'm a Drow and I get wrapped on by a tree at the big camp, I might just die. Like, I'm literally sitting under tower, playing as safe as possible in this lane the entire time until I get 6th, and then I'm like, still in tower defense jungling mode, I'd probably just leave. Like, the minute I get 6 in this, I'm just letting my Willow lane, and I'm leaving. That's my approach this game. So, like, the
And where do
fact...
you
Go
go?
ahead.
Where do you go if you're level 6? Just jungle?
Okay, so,
Where
talking about the dead lane,
specifically?
let's understand safety of farm, okay? This is how you have to judge as a carry player. Safety of farm. After you leave lane, out of all the jungle, where's the most dangerous jungle?
The bottom half of the map, right?
So, in order of camps, which one of these 5 is the most dangerous?
The two on the right,
Okay,
and then or more dangerous than the
then these 3.
triangle cluster. Yeah,
Okay, and then what is the next safest or next most dangerous cluster after these 3?
the ones in the off lane.
These 3.
No, no, no.
No, no, these 3. What's
Those three.
next? What's the safest farm on the map?
Um, are you saying those three are dangerous or
Yeah,
safe?
these 3 are safer than these 3.
Yeah, but
But you
I
need to consider you will farm these camps sometimes. That's why I'm bringing
yeah
them up.
yeah
So
I
after
farm
go ahead.
that area
Oh,
if
sorry. These
the
are more
3 or 1.
Okay, go ahead. It's
If
sorry.
the
I'm
three,
actually gonna say this: most dangerous, second most dangerous, third most dangerous, safest.
yeah, yeah,
So
that's what I
how do
was
you
trying to.
determine what farm you're taking?
Um, based on who's showing where.
Yeah, you need to understand the limits of your hero and how safe you are. If you're strong enough to to farm here, what advantage would it offer you to farm here over farming here? Like if you go to jungle and your Willow takes the lane, what advantage is there to farming here compared to here?
I can respond quickly if they go on the willow.
Maybe if it's just Axe, you can actually just come kill him and then return to jungling. Or maybe pressure the tower. But if you're here, you're virtually saying I have no impact on bottom lane. Right? Like, I'm done with bottom
Yeah.
lane. So what's the advantage of farming this over this or this?
Uh, I can pressure their safe lane.
Yeah, you can potentially pressure their safe lane if the situation arises, right? So if you are safe enough to farm this or this, you should always be farming it. But if you're not safe enough to farm this or this, then you need to ask yourself, based on the heroes on my team, meaning like is your mid lane they're going to take these camps, is based on what towers or lanes are lost. Like if the bottom lane's incredibly lost, this is probably safer. If they have like a Weaver top lane who's dominating, I probably wouldn't want to go here. Because that's a hero that can invade, right? But like,
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying though, right? So you have to think about like, so once again, most dangerous, second most dangerous, third most dangerous, fourth most dangerous, and then you have to think to yourself based on what lanes are winning and losing, how strong you are compared to their heroes, what kills you, and that's going to determine where you farm. But
So
like,
what if their
uh,
tier 1 safe lane is gone?
this one?
Usually if no,
Oh, this
their
one.
safe lane.
Yeah, sorry. This one. Okay.
If that's gone, I usually like take that area of the map and keep pressure on the tier 2, like keep the lane shove there.
That's not what Drow does. Um, so why is a hero like PL or Slark very survivable here when this tower's dead?
Well, they have an escape and they
Okay.
can jump over
So
ledges
why
and
is
stuff.
this tower being dead make it so these camps are very safer, much safer?
They can't TP in ahead of you.
They have to reach you. That's what they have to have reach. They can't just wrap behind you. They actually have to catch you and chase you. Right? So
Yeah.
if you're a hero that can't just walk away, then this isn't exactly safe for you. Drow, if you're right here and a hero shows right here, you might just fucking die to this guy. You know what I'm saying? But like if I'm a Slark and I'm farming right here and I see a guy right here, I'll just walk away.
Okay.
You see the difference? So like on
Yeah.
a
So
Drow,
where should I be on the map? In the mid game.
Drow is a hero that takes the safest farm on the map every single game. Without fail. And if that is, I'm not saying this like over, I'm not overgeneralizing this. You have to ask yourself on Drow where the safest possible farm is at all times. Out of all the safest farm, how strong am I? Like, so in the early to mid game, you will always be farming here, here, and then potentially showing up to random fights around your own towers and turning that into a push. The only time you are ever pushing is defending your own towers and killing people and then pushing off of it, or like ganking somebody and then pushing off of it. Or if they bring 3 heroes bottom, what could you do?
I could TP top.
Or just be, if you were like right here, you could just walk top.
Yeah.
Either way, you could go top. Because if there's 3 heroes bottom, why is it okay for you to be top with your team? Is Drow going to push this by herself? Against good players.
I mean, she could.
Against good players,
no.
will Drow ever push
Anyone
this
here know what a dead
by
lane
herself?
is?
No.
No, right? If she walks in and gets TP'd... If Drow has a single 4 position hero walk behind her and a core TP's in front of her face, how does she get out?
You don't.
You don't. So you don't push this tower by yourself ever, right? Like, you just can't. Unless they are literally showing 5 heroes bottom or like 4 bottom, 1 mid. And even then, you have to think to yourself, if an Ember TP's in front of my face, am I ever getting out of this? like, a lot of the times you can't. I'm not saying you're against Ember, but like if you're a Drow sitting right here and an Ember TP's in front of your face, you might still die. So it's one of those things where Drow is a hero that you have to understand, like, you have to play incredibly passive, and that's just how it is. Drow's probably, like, the most passive out of all carries in the early stages of the game. And this is why you leave lane as soon as possible, because why is this called the dead lane?
Because it's away from the good objectives.
Okay,
like Roshan
and you're also under the highest threat in this lane, right? So why does a
Yeah.
life stealer stay here till 12 minutes, or sometimes like 8 to 12 minutes? Why does a life stealer stay there?
I actually don't know. Well, I
'Cause he
guess
can.
he can sustain.
Because he can't.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Because he can't. Why do you leave lane as Drow at level 6? 90% of the time.
Because he can jungle and
You're able to jungle, and you can die to almost anything. Right? So, the point is, if you hit 6 early enough on Drow, and you're not killable by their heroes, should you stay in lane?
I think so.
Yeah. But what percentage of games would you say you hit level 6 on Drow and the enemy team can't kill you?
Low.
Low.
percentage.
But if it's that kind of game, should you stay in lane and pressure their tower?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my point is, I don't want people to over-exaggerate this and say Drow's never allowed to hit this tower. But if I ask myself if I can just die to any 2 heroes on their team, which in this game I'd say is the case, like 1 support plus 1 core, you're just fucking dead, right? Like, both supports offer a stun and all the cores are pretty strong against you. So if you're at a tower and a core walks at you with a support wrapping behind you, you're dead every single time. And if that's the case, I'm never doing that, right? Like, so there are few and far... All I can say about hero survivability is all that determines is how much it takes to kill you. How many levels it takes, how many items, like, how many heroes. And so, like, the reason why Drow leaves safe lane is because this is what her safe lane looks like every single game. So the minute you can leave, you leave. You don't leave before level 6 if you don't have to, because you don't jungle very fast. But the minute you get level 6, you leave as soon as you possibly can, as soon as you possibly have to, because you don't want to be here anymore. I think Wand is pretty... I guess Wand's okay. I mean, I think boots are incredibly important, as I mentioned, but I guess the tree just left your lane. I can only say you'll learn these things that I'm talking about boots and the importance of these little item choices when you play against really good players. Like, if you start playing core on your main, that's when you'll start learning about this, because they'll punish you, right? Like, you're getting away with a lot more than you... Like, all it is, and I'm sure you've realized, is the lower MMR you are, the more mistakes you get away with without being punished, right? Like, I remember I didn't buy boots one time on an offlane Luna, I think. Like, I was tri-laning or dual-laning or whatever to avoid a bad matchup, and I played offlane. I was playing some mobility-based carry. Like, I had to walk to get away. And I didn't buy boots, and I died 3 times because of it. Like, I died once, and then I didn't have boots, and then I died again because I didn't have boots. You know? And so you just get really punished. So this is a type of lane where I would be out of here as soon as possible. And because I see CM here, I would leave not to these 2 camps. If I see 3 top, I'd be farming these 2 camps. If I don't see their support, I wouldn't be here. Does that make sense? Based on your, yeah, like, it's all based on your survivability, right? So, like, right now, I'm not doing what you're doing here, by the way. I see CM bottom, I'm letting my Willow get this farm. How does core work? If a support can do it, why am I doing it? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If a support can do it, why am I doing it? The only reason you would do this, even though support could do this, is if you have no other choice. That will help guide your farm patterns. Like, if you have nowhere else to go, like, think about it. Your support could just be doing this while you're hitting these camps. Isn't that just more efficient? Are you guys trying to get anything done here?
No.
No, right? So if you're here, that'd be really good. Not only that, but why is Willow really nice in this lane? Why are you leaving this lane if you're to leave? We've already mentioned it. Why are we wanting to leave this lane?
So I don't just get killed.
Yeah, so why is Willow a nice hero to take this lane from you?
Willow is hard to kill.
Yeah, she's much harder to kill than you are. So, but a hero like Weaver or Lifestealer, those heroes are much more inclined to stay in this lane a long time because they're very hard to gank, right? So you want them to stay here and exert aggression. But even then, as these heroes like Weaver, Lifestealer, Ursa, these strong safe laners, you can look to jungle during times like this, where your support can just be getting this, but once your support gets this and then the lane pushes as a core like that, where should you be after the lane starts pushing again?
Jungling?
You should be back in lane to
With
exert
the lanes pushing?
your strength. I'm saying if you're like a Weaver, Ursa, Lifestealer type hero that's really strong, you can leave your, like, you know, as a support, when you're in the early game, if your core is strong enough without you, aren't you going to give them solo XP under tower?
Yeah.
So if you're a core that's strong enough to jungle for a bit and your support can get some levels under tower, but your support can't lane up here, can't you give them the wave under tower and then come back when the lane's here?
Yeah.
You see the opposite side of that equation here? Like, wouldn't you, as this, like, put your mind in the support, because you're a 6.6k support player. Imagine from their perspective, wouldn't you love getting this 4 CS as a Willow?
Yes.
And then, would you want to be solo? Like, okay, would Willow like to be solo here? In this lane? Like, by herself when the lanes are here?
No.
No. So what I would actually do, in an ideal perfect scenario, would be farm this camp and then pull this for my Willow.
Okay.
And if you watch super fucking high level carries, they do that. Like, if they want to stay bottom.
I actually I started pulling the small camp to get the lane back, but I didn't know why as carry I just started doing it.
Yeah, it's something. I mean, I mentioned that in my lane equilibrium video. I mentioned I made a video. I mean, it's in definitely one of my videos. I think it's in one of my tips and tricks video. I talk about the use of pulling the small camp as a carry player. And I think one of the most important pulls you can ever make, just to keep in mind, I should have made even like a 2-minute video on this. By the way, man, it's up to you. You know, obviously, if you're spending the money on this coaching session, you have the money to spend $5. If you want to spend it's probably a good amount of time. But I made like the coaching simulation course in the tips and tricks videos are legitimately catered to people of your caliber. Like, I know people, you can skip over like the first 20 minutes because that's like the basics, me trying to introduce the subject. But when I talk about like creep aggro and shit, one of the videos is me analyzing pros doing it and why they're using it. So if you want to understand like lane equilibrium and creep aggro and shit, those videos would help you, especially if you're newer to the core role. So I'm saying this because I don't want to talk anymore too much about each one of these individual subjects in your coaching session. You can actually get that. Like, I assure you it will help. But it's up to you. It's more time. It's just more time to take on those subjects than this. But it's obviously way cheaper. So this is a subject where I definitely would let my support take the lane if they can. And then my goal is, if I'm a hero that's strong enough to come lane here and win the lane, I'm going to come back. If I'm not strong enough to come here and win, then I'm going to let my support just soak. If that makes sense, right? Like, in this lane, I would have left to let my support be under tower. And I'm only coming back if I absolutely have to. And as a support hero, just think, do you want your carry here? Like, you know, if you're playing carry, just think, does my Willow want me to be here? Like, wouldn't she just rather be here without me? So, as a carry, one of the primary skills that comes with, like, because you're 6.6k, right? So we're actually at this bracket where obviously maybe you're not a 6.6k carry player, but you're at the bracket where supports especially may be good enough to win you the game sometimes, right? Like they will be good enough support players where if you give them an extra 1,000 net worth and 3 levels, they'll actually carry the game in a significant fashion, right? So, at any point, one of the highest skills as a carry is letting your supports have farm that you don't need. Like, you're generally going to be stronger than them or be able to do something they're not. So in this case, as a drow, and any carry, you should consider this. Who else on your team takes Ancients?
Jug.
Without a Battle Fury?
Nobody takes Ancients. I don't
Okay.
think, except for
So,
me.
if possible, you can cater your item build to farm Ancients. A lot. Because this hero farms, this hero's farms, both these heroes wouldn't mind taking farm, right? So, if you're that kind of, another level of farming you can think about as a carry is, what farm can I take that won't impact anyone else? Like, negatively. It won't take away from my teammates. So, like, it's one of those where this is the same as, if I'm the strongest hero on the map, on my team, and I'm taking the safest farm, what am I doing to my team?
I mean, you're hurting your team.
I'm taking farm that somebody else could be taking, right?
Yeah.
So, if I am a hero that could be ancienting and taking farm, like jungle farm that Ember could be doing or something, then I'm effectively taking farm away from my team. So not only is it based on position on the map, but what farm can the rest of your team actually take? Like, in terms of creeps, in terms of location, in terms of anything. And if you can, that can cater your item build as well, by the way. Like, that's something you can adjust your items to. Like, I've seen, like, I actually wouldn't mind you going Mask of Madness this game, so you can hit Ancients endlessly for, like, the next, or even Casual Morbid, or Casual Helm Dom. Like, if you just go for the Helm of the Dominator, like, an item that enables you to hit Ancients a lot, I wouldn't mind you going for, because against their team, you're easily killable until, like, Shadowblade. Okay, so that'd be my first item would be Shadowblade, by the way. My first major item would be Shadowblade. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why do heroes like Drow build Shadowblade?
So you can farm safely and then get a pick off.
Yeah, it gives you some kill
extra
potential
power.
too, right? It gives you some decent kill potential. But mainly, it's because you can walk around the map without just dying to anything. Because you're invisible. The only way you're going to die while you're invisible is if you, like, walk into a sentry or some shit, right? Like, that's a lot easier than if you just walk through your jungle and anytime Axe or Bloodseeker sees you, they just, like, push R or, like, blink on you. You know what I mean? So that's going to survivably allow you to farm. So in this game, like, the reason why I'd say the perfect build would either be Helm of the Dominator or Morbid is you're not in danger of dying yet. So build this steroid that lets you farm more. So I look at this farm more thing and I say Ancients. Boom. Like, buy an item that lets me farm Ancients. So I'd probably say Morbid. And then secondly, like, what's my item that's going to then further my survivability and ability to play the game? Shadowblade, because of all the things we just talked about. And then past that, look at their heroes. Probably need a Force Staff, or like a Hurricane Pike is a nice item. Positioning this game is really good. Being farther away, being in the back lines, being able to position. That's why almost every Drow always goes Shadowblade, Hurricane Pike. Like, they always do that. And then I'm probably going Manta after that. Why am I going Manta after Hurricane Pike?
I don't know. I never built Manta on this
Tree?
hero, so.
Crystal Maiden?
Tree and, yeah, I guess.
The only way they kill you with Manta is if they get the Rupture off or the Call on you, right?
Yeah.
That's all you have to position around then. If you have Shadowblade, Hurricane Pike, Manta at 30 minutes, 40 minutes in the game, the only way they're ever killing you is this hero and this hero. And that makes the game way easier to play. If you don't have Manta, these heroes can kill you. Like, these heroes set up the kill on you, which is really hard to play carry if the supports can set up kills on you. Right? So, first item is the steroid. Second item is the item that further enables you to continue farming and be impactful in the game. Third item is, like, fight-based item or luck. Like, into Hurricane Pike just makes fights easier, makes everything easier. And then, like, a lot of Drows just don't go BKB until, like, fourth item now. Because they're not playing the map anyway.
It doesn't feel very good, but ever build BKB.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I mean, the Manta's way better currently because, as oddly enough, like, you don't plan around this, but the late game viability of Manta is insanely good because of the cooldown reduction talent. Like, it makes the item late game insanely good on Drow, right? So the item actually scales for the hero really well. So, once again, do you want to be participating in fights right now?
Not really.
Okay. So if you don't want to participate in fights, what should you avoid?
Being in lane.
Being in the lane that they're going to take fights in. Where are they going to take fights based on dead lane concept?
Safe lane.
Okay, so if you stay safe lane, are you going to be taken into fights randomly at all times?
Yes.
Okay. So understanding where, like, whether or not you, so this is another crucial skill of playing carry. Understanding whether or not you want to participate in fights is the first step. Do I want to fight? Secondly, if I do want to fight, am I counterplaying them or pushing my own thing? You know what I mean? Like, am I going for an objective of my own or am I counterplaying them? And then that determines, like, do I play aggressively on the map or do I play the dead lane? Because if I'm dead lane, I'm counterplaying them. If I'm playing top lane, I'm making the move, right? Thirdly,
Right.
if I don't want to fight, what is their objective? Like, what are they going to do? So, like, what lane of mine is the most vulnerable? What hero on their team's the strongest? So, like, that hero's going to be in the fights. That kind of stuff. And then I'm going to play away from that. And I'm going to say, if they're going to force a fight, is my reaction going to be showing up to it or pushing elsewhere? So I would say as Drow, you're probably going to push elsewhere. So my farming patterns have been from leaving bottom. I wouldn't TP here because I can farm these earlier on, right? I would have been more efficient about it. So if you're determining whether or not you're like walking to farm or like TPing, it's a matter of safety, right? That's all it is. So like if I can safely walk this way, farming all the camps, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to make my way here. Nobody's taking this farm. This is all yours. And the reason why you'd prefer this over this is because if they group up 3 bottom, you can do this, right? Rather than TPing or walking here. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So, like if you see 3 top and 1 bit, or sorry, if you see 3 top or 3 bottom, and you see the safe lane carry farming top, and you're right here, what could you immediately do after you finish these ancients?
Go top.
You see 1 top, 3 bottom.
I would go top, right?
You're right here farming ancients. You see 3 bottom, 1 top. Can't you casually go push mid real quick?
Yeah, I don't really think about mid, but yeah.
Right? Mid's
Yeah.
the most dangerous lane on average in terms of like when I say the most dangerous, it's one of the hardest lanes to push. Like usually you don't go mid, but the reason you don't go mid is because usually their mid laners there. But if their mid laners like rotated to bottom and you see their safe laner here, like what you can do is force somebody here and then go top. But if you just go directly top, the person you were supposed to force to be here can be here. You see what I'm saying? So like
Yes.
that's why I say like if you're right here and you see 1 top, 3 mid, force someone to be here first and then go top. Like all I'm saying is like man, it's obviously a very complicated subject. None of this stuff's easy, right? So my point is it has to be this thought process of where do I want to be? Like, am I in fight mode, farm mode? Who am I trying to dodge? If I'm an Ember versus PL, I mentioned this in my last session, if I'm the hero that's strong, if I'm Ember versus PL because I counter PL, where should I be on the map if I'm Ember?
Wherever PL is.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, I try to think about the lane. Okay, this is all in my videos. I'm just being very clear not to sell out because it's, like, obviously you're here. My point is, past the, like, in the laning matchups, when you see me, like, playing musical chairs or, like, in the laning stage, and you see me, or in even pro matches you see it happening, why are they doing that? Why are those heroes playing musical chairs in the laning stage?
You mean like dodging and
Yeah,
lanes
dodging,
and stuff
swapping lanes, all that kind of shit. Why are they doing that?
to get a favorable lane?
Yeah, favorable lane matchups. And those favorable lane matchups mean everything, right? So you need to think about... So the first understanding is understanding lane matchups, understanding their dynamics, how they play out and shit. But the next step, which is what I'm referencing because it's in my video, is understanding hero matchups past 10 minutes. Like, for an example, I'm trying to give a good example here. A lane matchup wise, Ursa crushes Ember in the first like 5 levels. But the member, if both Ursa and Ember are level 8, who's favored?
I'm guessing Ember.
Yeah, right? So if I'm Ursa, I want to be lane matched up against him, but when the 10-minute mark rolls around, do I want to follow the Ember around?
No.
No! So, like, that's going to determine where I want to be on the map, like, past the laning stage. So, like, when I'm looking past the laning stage, I'm thinking to myself, what heroes do I want to be around or avoiding? And that's going to help me determine, like, first off, if I can even show in lanes on any hero. Second off, if I'm going to show in lanes, which lane am I going to go to? Let me see here. Oh, this is my Smurf account. I wanted to pull up my main. But the point is, like, if you're these... you need to think about what heroes you can show in lane against and which ones you want to be against and which ones you can't be against. And if you look at the heroes and say which ones you can't be against, like, I mean, it's okay, say you look at their 3 cores and you literally say, I can't lane against any of those things. Like, then where do you go?
Jungle.
Yeah, you jungle. And where do you jungle?
Near where I want to force an objective when they show.
And yeah, where they're least likely to play, right? Because where they're least likely to play is where you're most likely to make a forced objective, right? Because they're going to make a play bottom and you can go force top, right? Yeah. Does that make sense? So that's my point, is like, that's how you guide your patterns of farming. And that's what I talked about in my video. Like, my video it's about rotating from the safe lane. And it's all about, when I say rotating from the safe lane, like, in this game, okay, pull up my main account when you can. Like, go to my Dota buff. And I'm actually going to load it while I'm talking about this. So the idea is that when you play these, like, safe laners that are incredibly favored in their matchups, if I'm giving you a Lifestealer versus Tiny example is what I'm giving you. I don't know if you know, but Lifestealer shits on Tiny. Like, it's not even close. So my point is, like, if I'm Lifestealer against Tiny and I establish an advantage, does that matchup get better or worse over levels for Tiny?
Worse.
Worse, right? So if I have an advantage as Lifestealer, am I going to use that advantage to leave the lane as soon as possible?
No.
No, I'm going to stay there as long as humanly possible, right? Because I just want to keep shitting on this guy. Correct? So,
yeah,
if I'm building items and I want to be in Tiny's lane, I need to think, where is he going to play after the laning stage? I'm going to build my items to be in that lane, right? So if you watch this game on fast forward, you ask, like, I'm just going to show you this because this is a very important concept for you to understand where to go, okay? So this is why it's so important to understand these things. And like, you're a support player, right? So you're not going to know these core matchups nearly as well. I've played 300 games of Lifestealer. It's just like when I haven't played much SF, so I tell the guy exactly, I know what he exactly needs to do on SF, but I don't know exactly how to do it. You know, I don't know exactly what items, you know what I mean? I don't know the exact intricacies of these matchups. So my point is, these are the things you are good enough and need to pay attention to. The point for me is, you're going to learn this stuff way faster than a guy that's 4K that's trying to learn it for the first time as well. And that's how I'm viewing it, right? Like, I'm still messing up. I'm still taking time to learn these things, but I'm going to learn it way faster than somebody who doesn't. Like, or somebody who's like 5K. Like, they're not going to... Sorry, I said that. I'm like thinking about multiple things at once. And so for you, since you're 6K, 6.6, honestly, as a support, you'll learn these things from if you're thinking the right way. You'll learn them your knowledge of Dota, everything you know is just higher. So, like, I'm going to fast forward and, like, look at their heroes. So I want to stay in lane against Tiny as much as possible. You're the Lifestealer in this case. What are we afraid of that's going to boot us out of top? Looking at the enemy lineup around 7-8 minutes. I'm going to fast forward.
Clinks or running to mines, or I don't know.
Clinks or Peel, right? Would you agree? It's going to be Clinks or Peel?
Yeah.
So what do those heroes do to boot me out? How do they boot me out?
They just kind of show up.
Yeah, and what do they do when they show up?
Run at you.
Okay. And how do they deal damage to me? What?
Physical damage.
Okay, so physical. What item might you think is included in my early game? May not be a traditional item on strength heroes.
Aquila.
Yeah, right? Because I want to stay in this lane, and I need armor. Because I'm going to get the heroes that are going to boot me out are these two. Right? So then, what item do you think I'll build as my core item this game, looking at my heroes? Is it my job to build physical damage based on our heroes?
No.
What item do you think I'm going to build?
Radiance.
Okay. So, how do I want to play until Radiance? Am I forcing objectives?
No.
Okay. So, if you're not forcing objectives, how are you playing? What's your sole purpose if you're not the one forcing objectives?
I'm not sure. That's actually one of the questions
No,
I
yeah.
had
So
was
if you're
like,
not forcing
what
objectives,
do you
what's
do in
go ahead.
between like timings? What do you do in between timings?
Yeah, no, that's a great
Is one of
question.
my
No,
questions.
yeah. So it was referenced in my last coaching session, right? So the idea is if you're not trying to force objectives, what's happening on the map? Think about the other team.
They are forcing objectives.
Okay. So when you're not forcing objectives, what should your mindset be?
Defending those objectives,
Stopping them as
preventing
much
them.
as possible from getting objectives, right? Because if you're not forcing objectives, that usually means you're farming for something and then you're waiting for something to happen, right? Like you're waiting to get a specific timing, right? So you're asking me what to do between timings. So the first and foremost thing is understanding your timings, right? So first and foremost, understand the timings. Second off, like knowing what to do with the timings. Like if my timing is BKB, so let's force a fight. My timing is Blink, so we're going to go kill this guy. My timing is Radiance, we'll go take a fight or like start forcing objectives because I'm really strong. Or I have this item on this hero, we're going to go Roche. Knowing what to do with the timings. But until you hit that timing, usually you're not trying to force anything. That's how high, like ultra high level Dota works, right? So if we're not trying to force anything, are we content if nothing's happening in the game?
Yes.
Okay. So we want nothing to happen, if possible, which means them not getting objectives and us not getting objectives, or equal trades occurring, right? Like us getting a tower, them getting a tower. So if they're behind, which they are, what's the first tower they're ever going to go for?
Your tower.
Okay.
Safe lane.
So what's my job in this game as a life stealer? When I am not trying to do anything, I'm farming a Radiance, right? This is not my timing. So let's think about this at very advanced. What's my TA going to do for the next 10 minutes?
TA is probably gonna play bottom and mid.
Probably mid and jungle, right? Hitting Ancients and farming her Deso Blink. Until then, does she want to do anything?
No.
Does she ever want to come top?
No.
What's Enchantress as a hero? Oh, that's a support. What's Pugna do as an offlaner?
Shove lanes.
And which
Threaten
lane? Like, he
towers.
threatens towers. Does he ever want to come top and defend this
No.
tower? No. If the enemy does not get this top tower, are they getting any other tower?
No.
No. So if TA doesn't want to come top, Enchantress doesn't want to come top, or sorry, Pugna doesn't want to come top, and our Enchantress tree, heroes are going to defend this top. And if I don't go top, where do I go? If I'm a life stealer, if I'm not top, where would you go? Am I jungling?
Yeah.
I'm not. Are you ever jungling on life stealer when you're having a good start? Ever?
No.
No, ever, never. This like the only heroes that farm jungle with a good start are ones that are too squishy to stay in lane, or ones that absolutely flash farm it, like really kill the jungle real fast, right? So like Drow would go jungle because she's too squishy. A Luna might go jungle because she just kills it all in like less than a minute, right? So, but lifestealer, I don't farm fast enough to warrant going jungle, and I'm strong enough to stay in lane. So if I don't farm top, where am I going? What lane would I go? Like where would I go? It'd have to be a lane, right?
Yeah.
But what about Pugna and TA? What did I say they want to do?
They just want to stay where they are.
Yeah, so if I go to their lane, where are they going to go?
Top or somewhere
And
else.
if they go top, do they want to be top?
No.
So what's my job in this game?
Stay top.
As long as I humanly possibly can. And what's more important, me slowing down the opponent's timings or accelerating my own? Based on the heroes I have on my team and what I'm enabling them to do.
Slowing them down.
Slowing them down. So am I willing to buy as many items as possible to prevent them from taking this tower as long as possible? Even if it means
Yeah.
slowing down my Radiance.
Yes.
So when people ask me about items like full wand, full Aquila, raindrops, going an armlet on Lifestealer before Radiance, how am I determining what I buy?
If you needed to keep that tower alive.
Yes, so basically what you're saying, which is on the right track, and I'm going to make sure it's worded correctly, what is my job? What do I need to fucking do it? My job is to defend this tower,
Yeah.
right? So what items do I need to defend this tower? So someone who's never played core, never played Lifestealer before, are you going to know exactly what you need to defend this tower?
No.
No. Can you make an educated guess on what you exactly need to defend this tower? Yes, you're allowed to make educated guesses.
Armlet.
I'm just saying, like,
Armlet?
you as a hero, as a player, are not going to be correct all the time because you haven't played 300 games of Lifestealer. But if you know your job is to defend this tower, that's the step we have to get you to. That's the first, as a core player, you have to know where you want to be. The next step is to do it right. So what I'm saying for you guys to understand my struggle from when I'm trying to learn these other heroes and other roles, from the carry role, I feel like I know very well this subject. Okay? Like, exactly what limits I can play, where I'm supposed to be, how I'm supposed to exert my strength, that kind of stuff. When I play mid and off lane, I'm not nearly as good at this. Okay? Just how it is. So I'm trying to expand my horizons on that regard. So, my point is, if I know my job is to play top, then I have to ask myself, what stops me from playing top? What items do I need in order to do this? And then, what's going to happen for you is you're going to make this educated guess, and you're going to mess up, and you need to understand what is making you mess up. If you get harassed out of lane, what items could you consider having bought?
Regen or
Raindrops, Aquila for trades, right?
yeah.
Like, Aquila, what does Aquila do as a core? Do you know?
Lets you pressure towers.
Yeah, it lets you... It's lane pressure, which is then tower pressure, right? Like, it helps you with trading and pushing the lane. So, both of which benefit you... Like, notice how I'm keeping the lane at his tower, right? That's why I have this Aquila. So, like, look at what I'm forcing up here. And then, like, look at what happens to me. And, like, how many... Like, all these items I've bought to keep the... Like, notice how I'm keeping the lane out. That's all I care about. I don't care about giving Tiny some levels as long as this lane isn't under pressure. Because I know I'm enabling the rest of my team to do their job. But, like, look at what I'm doing here, right? I know I die, but do they get anything off that? Maybe not the best death, okay? I'm not arguing that I shouldn't die here. But look at the rest of the map and what they get off that kill. Am I no longer able to be top? Because of that death. Does that death prevent me from going back? No, it doesn't, right? So, am I okay with that death?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, look at what happens during it, right? I force their core to rotate, and then that other core has to rotate, and then their supports aren't there, right? So, I'm not... My point is, if you want validity on why I think that death is actually a really good death overall, watch Ramses. I watch him win the game for his team, feeding the safe lane like 4 times. When I say feeding, I mean he's applying so much pressure, he forces like 4 heroes in his lane, and his team like takes a tower and kills somebody during it. Okay, like, it's actually worth it. Notice how I was even debating buying Blade Mail. Why would I buy Blade Mail?
1 for armor, and 2, it pretty much makes it so Clinks can't...
It makes Clinks fuck off, right? Like, he's a hero that relies on heavy physical burst damage all in, like, 3 seconds. So, a Blade Mail's super good against that, right? So, I'm, like, thinking to myself what I need to be able to do my job. I'm getting invaded, I need armor, so I buy the Chainmail. And I'm, like, debating if I buy the Blade Mail. What determines whether or not I buy this full Blade Mail before I go Radiance? In your mind, what determines it?
If Clinks can kill you 100 to 0.
Yes, if I need it, right? Like, I feel like I need the survivability from the Blade Mail, right? And so I realize I'm, like, farming around, I'm not really having any issues dying, so I don't buy the full Blade Mail. But, like, imagine if I didn't have all the items I have. Look at what's happening in top lane. Right? Like, look at what they're trying to do. Am I not just fucking them here? You know what I'm saying? And then, like, my Pugna rotates top, so guess what? Like, I just leave. Right? Like, my Pugna's gonna go pressure the tower, I'm gonna go take the other lane. Like, I'm enabling my team to make plays around me when they want to, but they don't have to play in the areas of the map that they don't want to play. So this is how you approach it when you're the survivable hero. It's the complete opposite when you're not. You can be the guy that rotates the survivable hero, gets a quick kill, and then maybe gets an objective or just goes and farms. You see what I'm saying? Like, so when you're the Drow, you're kind of the Pugna in that circumstance. But you're even less survivable than Pugna because he has 50 move speed on you. Like, meaning Pugna's only survivability is move speed as well as decrep. Like, but Drow has, like, Gust to protect herself. Like, she's just really slow. So she's going to be the one sitting passively farming. If you want to learn how to be aggressive in lane, the player to study is Ramses, by the way. If you want to know what your role is in terms of pressuring towers or not, like, just watch Ramses' games whenever he has a slight advantage. And you can even watch him from behind, too. But when he has a slight advantage, I learned all my shit from Ramses, and like obviously he still does it better than me. But I'm like all the information I gain is from watching him on this regard. So once again, I wouldn't want to play bottom here because this
Yeah.
is where the fight's going
So
to be.
yeah,
What?
so my thought process was I wanted Shadow Blade timing before I went top. So that's
Okay, so
which is
that's
probably
when. So if you know your next move's going to be top, right? That's what you've understood. Then even
yeah.
if you don't have your timing yet, you should still be farming around that area. The only way you're not farming around the area that you want to
Okay,
make a
well,
move.
okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I have another question.
Great. Go ahead.
So I was also thinking that I wanted to walk bottom, so my TP would be off cooldown, force bottom, then TP top. That was also part of my thought
No, that
process.
okay. So here's the deal, dude. Here's the deal. I was actually you stole my thunder here. So I was gonna ask, when would you not play around the objective you want to take?
When would you not?
So say I want to take top. When am I not playing around top and I want to play bottom instead? You already answered it with what you just said. But
Yeah, the TP cooldown.
you want to force people to
Oh
not be
yeah,
top first. What kind of hero? So what does that require you to do? Exert pressure bottom, right?
yeah.
So what may need to be the circumstance for you to be able to do that on any given hero?
They have to show top.
I'm saying you have to be fucking strong enough to exert pressure on a different lane. Drow is not a hero that's going to exert pressure and then go somewhere else and exert more pressure. She's going to be a hero that conveniently goes somewhere because the other team isn't there. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah.
Like, I as a lifestealer or like a farmed PL or some shit or an Ursa can exert a ton of pressure. Drow, if played properly against, is just going to feed if she tries to exert pressure. I'll just tell you that you have to just trust me. If you try to exert pressure directly as a Drow, which in this case was directly, you like went on the Bloodseeker, what would good players have there? They'd have 3 fucking heroes. You'd go on that guy and die. Like that's what's gonna happen. Like you're gonna go on that guy, they're gonna immediately TP 2 heroes, and you're gonna feed. That's what that's gonna look like. But you're in a 3K Smurf, so you're not gonna see that. I'm telling you, when you play on your main, if ever, with your core role, that's what you're gonna get. So my point is, when you're a weak hero like Drow, like not a strong enough to like the only time you do this indirect pressure approach is when you're a hero that is strong enough to indirectly pressure. Like if you're a Morphling, if you're a PL, you're these type of heroes that are strong alone or like survivable alone, but they don't want the team fight. Those are the heroes that indirectly go bottom to pressure, force people there, and then go top. You see what I'm saying? On
Yeah.
Drow and like Luna and shit, you're gonna just casually be farming jungle. You're gonna see them rotate somewhere else, and then you're gonna go top. So you're gonna know that you want to go top. So if you were a PL doing this, I'd say perfect move. You want to go top, you're gonna do this and then go top. Great. Drow, no. You see what I'm saying?
I think so. Yeah.
It's basically saying PL. If you did this, they have no real counterplay until Axe Blink. Drow, they can just kill you if they played it properly. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, like if they play, you have to agree with me. If they played this properly, you could not be here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just get hit by a random tree and then
ganked and died. Yeah, like that's the point I'm trying to make. So anytime you would want to go bottom is if you saw what's going on top, but that would have had to happen first. Like this worked out because the enemy's bad, and I don't want you to make the right choices because people are bad. Because even in the 6K bracket, that still occurs. So, it's just less likely to happen. So now you have a Shadow Blade, and I don't mind this. This is fine. You don't, I want to be very clear that you only got the bottom 2 towers because they're bad, and that would never occur. I'm not trying to say this to, like... I'm just trying to hash out to you and everyone else, like, very clearly, like, I know what you did overall is objective taking, but it should not work.
and start feeding.
Yes, so here's the deal. I go over this in my deadline video, and it's something I made a tips and tricks video on, too, that you'll be able to find, I think, if you want to look them up. Basically, how it works is, now that you've established you want to be top, what do you think the one thing you have to think about is? Now that you know you need to play top.
What combinations of their heroes killed me?
Absolutely, so what does that lead to? Like, what thought does that lead to, then? I'm trying to ask the question correctly, it's hard to ask it. If that is the first step. What combination of heroes kill me? So what does that then lead to?
I have to know where they are.
Okay. And basically then draw a line here, 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 and that's how far up you're allowed to play based on your understanding of them and you. So first off, what combination of heroes kill me? Second off, how far does that allow me to play up? Can I hit this tier 2 tower for free? Can I push the lane into the tier 2, then back off? And when I back off, can I farm this camp? Or do I have to go to this one? And do I have to walk this way? Or can I walk this way? Do I just farm the wave when it's right here, but I'm farming here otherwise? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, you know you're supposed to be top, but Drow should never be up here. You clear this wave, and you go to this camp, and then you walk here. That's what a Drow would do. Like a very good Drow player would do that. Like, my point about this, if you want to learn this subject, first and foremost, I'd highly recommend if you're learning these concepts, you play one carry over and over again. To learn them, in my opinion, the best order would be to play the strongest heroes first. So, like, play really strong laners like Bloodseeker or Necro first, and like learn how far you can go with those heroes, and then scale it down. In this patch, if you're trying to learn core role, you have two approaches. You can either play it from the absolute strongest heroes in the game first, or you can play it from the absolute weakest heroes in the game. When I mean weak, I mean like the ability to pressure. I don't mean like in terms of meta how strong they are. Like Drow is one of the weakest. So if you want to play Drow, you'll have to know that she plays incredibly safe, like all game, and that's fine. But that's like something you have to know. So as long as you play Drow safe, but then don't play that way when you're playing Lifestealer or Ursa, that's fine. You see what I'm saying? So my point is, you have to draw this line of where you think you can play. And if you ask yourself how you die, then I think you're incredibly position-based this game. So I'm going to be playing like around here, is what I'm playing. And the only time I go here is when I'm farming here and I happen to see 4 heroes go here. That's the only time I'm ever going here. Because I think to myself, if all 4 of their hero, or Bloodseeker, if all 3 of their cores and Crystal Maiden are showing at this tower, can I hit this tower tier 2? If Treant is missing and all 4 of their heroes are bottom, can I hit this tier 2?
No.
Why?
Because he can just hit me and don't TP in.
Yeah, exactly, right? But that's something you determine. What if Viper is missing, but all the other 4 are bottom? Can I be here?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So that's the point, is you need to know where that line is, why. So that's why you're asking yourself exactly how do they kill me, and then you're going to determine how far up you can be on the map based on like what heroes kill you, how they kill you, and that's something that's different on every single hero, every single game. Like certain games as Drow, I can play this far up because they can't catch me. Certain games on PL, I'm fucking invincible. Certain games on PL, I can't go anywhere past here. Like, it's just based on my understanding of the hero matchups. And the only thing I can tell you is you have to make educated fucking guesses. Like, you just have to guess based on your knowledge of Dota and that hero that you're playing. If you play the hero 5 times, your knowledge ain't going to be that great. But you have to guess. So, like, when I'm playing Pug now, I'm like, I think I can get away with this. I've played the hero like 30 times total. I think I can get away with this. But then I die. And I'm like, oh, I couldn't get away with this because of... because of whatever reason. I can't get away with it. So that's what I'm looking at. And so I'm going to go and fast forward. And Drow's is not a hero that makes solo plays. When's the only time you can go on this Crystal Maiden?
When I know where everybody else is.
When you know where every other hero is, okay? But if you're playing... in this game, you're playing Juggernaut. When could you go on that Crystal Maiden?
When I have Omni Slash.
And what heroes care? What heroes do you care about?
I'm not sure.
Don't you die to Tree +1? Don't you die to Axe +1?
Yeah.
So if Tree or Axe are missing, can you go on Crystal Maiden?
No.
Okay. But if Bloodseeker Viper, if Tree Axe are showing bottom, can you go on Crystal Maiden no matter where Bloodseeker Viper are?
Yes.
Why?
Because you can just spend TP.
So if my TP's on cooldown, can I go on Crystal Maiden if Bloodseeker's missing?
No.
Okay. You see my train of thought here. So the reason why I think it's easier or better to start with the stronger heroes is because Jug cares about Axe and Treant. Drow cares about everybody on the enemy team. It just makes your decision making harder. That's how I view it. Like, it just makes it harder to make decisions because there's so much that scares you. Right now, I am practicing spell casting position based heroes because I feel like my decision making is great on heroes that either are only positioning or only spellcasting or they're survivable. But heroes that are spellcasters and position based, I feel like it's too much for me. Like, I feel like it's overwhelming. I can't process things fast enough. I can't worry about my positioning and cast spells properly. So I'm just spamming Pugna right now. That's what I'm trying to do. You see what I'm saying? Like, how that's like a step up of difficulty of playing just Drow, who's position based, or playing like Slark, who's a lot of spell casting but not very much position based. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why for me, like, I personally recommend playing heroes that are much easier to pressure with rather than heroes that die to almost everything. Because it's up to you. Like, some people learn differently. For me though, that's my method of learning. So I'm just giving you my perspective.
Makes
And you can,
sense.
yeah, and you can interpret for yourself like which way you'd rather learn it. There's no perfect answer.
Yeah, other people have also recommended Bloodseeker and Necro.
Yeah, Bloodseeker, Necro, Ursa, I'd say are like three best carries to learn with right now because your room for error is much higher. And also, whenever a hero's meta, guess what that means for you?
It's strong.
It's strong, and there's plenty of replays to watch because everyone's playing it. It's like if I'm trying to learn Lone Druid, and there's nobody fucking playing Lone Druid, how am I supposed to learn it? Like, you know what I mean? So, first off, he's weak, so I have less room for error, and then I also have nobody to watch. So yeah, this is just you way overplaying your hero, and this is just the concept of like understanding what you're allowed to do on the map. You should be farming. These three camps should be dead before you're doing anything else on the map almost every minute, to be frank with you. These three camps are the safest, and you farm them really well. Does that make sense to you? Like, why these camps should die? Like, if you watch Lunas and Drows and stuff, the only time they're not farming these three camps is when they know the enemy team's somewhere around here, or the enemy team's grouped up down here, right? Then they're pushing the lane. Luna is quite similar to Drow, kind of like a flash farming version of her. I just think Luna sucks right now, so I don't recommend playing Luna, but I heard she's pretty good for climbing and low MMRs, so if you want to practice her on your Smurf, that's okay. But like I said, I highly recommend playing survivable heroes first, because there's just less shit to worry about. And so it's basically like, you know, level 1 of the test, and then this is like level 5. And Pugna, in my opinion, for me, is like level 7. Like, I'm still working on it. So Dota's all about how much information can you process and how quickly can you do it, right? So on Drow, if you're worried about 4 heroes compared to the 2 that Juggernaut's worried about, you have to process twice as much information in the same amount of time to make the proper decisions, right? So that's how I look at it, and you know, like I said, it's just a philosophy that I have. So aside from that, obviously you guys took a good fight, and
Yeah, we still lose this game, but how much time do we have left?
5-10 minutes.
What do you do if you get wrecked in lane?
Okay, so every hero is different. With Drow, last time I played Drow, I went 0-5 in lane. I spent the next 20 minutes jungling. What other choice do I have? I was against like a Broodmother Pangolier, right? Like, if I go into lane, what's gonna happen to me?
You're just gonna die.
I'm gonna die. So my goal is, whenever I'm behind, to do as much as I can while doing nothing, if that makes sense. So if I'm behind, but I can still defend my safe lane, or I'm behind and I can still exert a little bit of pressure here, I'm gonna go here. But just remember the safety of farm, right? Like, in terms of lanes as well. Like, lanes are the most dangerous, and then you go to this, this, then this, then this, then this. And it's just like, how far behind am I, right? And it's like, certain heroes. Give an example here. Does Drow kill or farm her way back into the game?
Farm.
Okay. But what does she usually... If you're behind and you're a hero that needs to farm, what tower has to die?
I would guess the top.
The
tower.
enemy safe lane, right?
Yeah.
So what point, if you're behind, do you go for that safe lane tower?
If they go for your safe lane tower.
All I'm going to say is, yes, that's true. That is one factor. But it is as soon as possible. If that's 17 minutes in the game, okay, fine. Like, whenever you think you can finally go for that tower, okay? Like, at the earliest possible moment. And if you need 3 heroes to go with you, like, when I'm on stream and I'm bitching that nobody's playing bottom with me because I'm like this troll warlord drow type hero and we need that tower and nobody's helping me, we can't win the game. I'm like, guys, if we don't get this tower, we don't win the fucking game. And nobody comes. Like, for whatever reason, I can't convince people in the 7K bracket to take the enemy safe lane tower as 4 when the opponent's not there. I can't convince them to do that, for whatever reason. But the point is, that's the tower that needs to die when you're behind, at least in this patch, and until something drastically about the map changes, that'll be the case. And so you need to avoid and minimize all objective damage that they can take, or kills to you. So base that on your farming patterns, and then the minute you think, like I always tell myself, what's the timing for us taking that tower? And if that tower is our objective, but we're never getting it for the time being, who do we need to kill first, right? Like, who on their team is preventing me from farming, right? So if I'm a hero that farms my way back into the game, like a Drow or a Luna, when am I going for kills?
I would say never unless you have your items.
No, when my objective is to farm, why would I choose to kill over farming?
If you need to kill the farm.
Yeah, right? Like, what you'll watch, if you watch like Arteezy playing these Luna Terrorblades from last patch, the only fights he ever took in games that he was behind were right here. Why?
Because that was where he wanted to farm.
That was where he was farming and he couldn't fucking do it unless he fought there. Like, I'm like, if this is the safest farm on the map and they're invading this too, what option do we have other than to fucking fight them? Like, what option do we have? You know what I'm saying? So that's why taking this tower is so important, right? Because it opens up more of the map and then it makes this even safer, so it actually enables some farm on the map. Because if this tower remains, then like this is actually, like if this tower is alive for them and this tower's dead and this tower's dead and this tower's dead, this area is suddenly dangerous as well. So where the hell do you go? You know? So usually in those spots, you end up jungling over here or some shit. Like if you're Radiant, like that's becomes the safest part of the map is their jungle like deep, because that's not where they're gonna be. I got that lecture from 747 the other day. Something I forget as often because it only applies to heroes that are so far behind that can't do anything. But yeah, so like I said, you need to think about that way. Are you a hero that kills his way back into the game? Or farms back into the game? If you're a hero that kills their way back into the game, what should be your primary focus?
Ganking.
Okay, but what about that gank should you think about? If you're a hero that kills your way back into the game, how long should you farm for?
Until you have whatever you need to start killing people.
Boom! Yeah, it's almost like you're a high MMR player. So that's the deal, man. That's how you have to think about coming back. Am I a hero that farms the way back in the game or kills the way back in the game? If you're a hero that farms, the only time you participate in fights or kills is when that objective they're trying to take or that fight they're trying to take directly interferes with your ability to farm. So if I'm behind and I'm a Medusa, what tower am I probably defending if possible? If I'm behind, I'm trying to farm as a Medusa, what tower will I probably participate in if possible?
Mid.
Okay, perfect. Great. Like if I'm a Drow or a Luna and I'm behind in farm, where are most of my fights probably going to occur?
In that shrine area.
Yeah, right? Right around, it's somewhere around here. Because if they're invading that area, then where else do I go? Right? I'm never going here. My only option is to be here. So if they force a fight there, it's going to happen. I'm going to take a fight there. Like, it's just how it is. But if I'm a hero that kills my way back in the game, I'm an Ursa. But I can't kill people if I have no blink, so I gotta farm somehow. So I'm gonna play the farm dodge game until I get blink. And the minute I get blink, do I continue farming?
No.
No, like, that's why it is so important to have that exact mindset of what you're gonna do in reaction to what the opponent's doing or what timings you're gonna hit, why they, like, so when you say come back, am I a farming hero or am I a kill hero? And the minute I get the option to kill people, I kill them. If I'm a farming hero, I only kill if I'm doing it for an objective that enables me to farm or prevents the opponent from taking an objective that makes it harder for me to farm. Like, losing your mid lane makes all this area much more dangerous. So, like, That's why Medusa will protect the tower over farming, because she'd rather have a tower if she's losing farm in the short term than lose a tower and not be able to farm here ever. And it's just all about understanding, like, at what point can you actually do something? So you're farming your way back into the game until you can actually do something. On a kill hero, you're farming until your kill item. On a farming hero, what are you usually farming for if you're a farming hero like Luna? How long are you farming for if you're behind on a hero like Luna?
I don't know.
Until you can fight them.
Okay.
That's how it is. Like, I need to farm until I can fight them. So when, like, on a hero like Luna, what's usually the fighting item?
BKB.
Okay, so how do I determine how many items I go before I get BKB?
Depends on how early your team meets you.
That is a perfect example. And the other answer, like, there's one of two examples. So one is that, and two, how many items I need with a BKB to actually fight them. Because there's certain games where if you go Mask of Madness BKB, you can't fight them anyway.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, sometimes you'll need that extra item, like a lance or a full manta or some shit to actually fight them too, or a hurricane pike. Like, you'll need that item on top of the BKB in order to fight them. And so that's a game where you'd extend your need for a BKB longer. But also, like you said, it's also based on when your team needs you. So that's like another factor. If your team can make all the space for you in the world, you can go like 3 items before BKB because they don't need you. But if they need you, then you should think to yourself, how soon can I fight? With, like, what build doesn't completely ruin my game, but I can still fight them. So, and you need to go that one. So that's really the main answers I have to your questions. Do you have any other, like, you sound like you had a lot of, like, generalized concept questions coming into this. So do you have any others that we haven't gotten to because we didn't get late enough in the game? But I honestly don't have much else to talk about because you have to get this first 15 minutes down as a carry. Otherwise, it's completely pointless.
All right. I think we covered a lot of it. I was going to ask about, like, TP cooldowns and how to think about that and dead lane stuff.
Okay.
Like,
so TPs have to do with a lot about, first off, am I going to fight if I can? Like, what is my chances of showing up to that fight? So if I know a fight's going to go on bottom, how do I determine whether or not I TP top?
like, depending on how early you think, like, if you think you can get, like, the full TP cooldown before you need to be bottom.
Or I don't need to, or I just never going bottom anyway. Like, meaning that's so those are the two options, right? One is, will a fight happen in the next 80 seconds? And two, am I going to that fight? Even. If I'm never going bottom for that fight, then I don't care if I TP top. What's another consideration? If I TP to a certain part of the map, what does that mean for me when I'm playing that part of the map?
That you're pretty much stuck there until...
Okay. So when would I might not TP on a certain hero? Like, if I'm PL against Ember, why would I maybe not TP top?
Because the other guy will follow you, and then
I'm stuck and I'm fucked. Right? So if I am concerned about a hero that can show up in my lane, so if the hero I'm concerned about TP's bottom, am I willing to TP top in that circumstance?
Yeah.
Sure. If the hero I am against is missing, am I willing to TP top?
No.
No. So you need to think about when you get there, first off, who's going to force you away and what you'll do with it. Is that forcing me away simply forcing me out of lane, or is that forcing me off that side of the map? That's like a big difference. If it's forcing me out of lane, I might still be willing to TP because I'll just go farm jungle. But if it's forcing me off that side of the map, I probably don't want to TP there because then I'm walking all the way to the other side of the map. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then the next step is also the survivability that a TP enables you to have. Certain games, the TP, like, allows you to play a certain part of the map that you wouldn't be allowed to play otherwise. It gives you kill potential on heroes that you wouldn't otherwise have, like in that Jug example in this game. If I see Tree Axe on the map as Jug, I'm willing to do whatever the fuck I want as long as I have a TP off cooldown. But if I don't have a TP, I can still die to Bloodseeker Viper. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that determines the 3 factors are fighting and your relevance to them and where they're going to be. 2, what heroes can show up in your lane and how that impacts you. And 3, the survivability that a TP offers you in that given game. and that's the options behind TP. Anything else?
No, not really. Cool.
Right on. Do you feel like you have a lot of questions to answer for yourself here? I feel like I threw a lot of things to
Yeah,
think
there's a
about.
lot of process. Yeah, about
So
higher
this is going to be
level.
overwhelming, but you're a high MMR player, and I highly recommend you start around. I think 3.5k is a little low. If you have a Smurf
Yeah,
that's
no,
like,
I played a party game on my main and kind of got wrecked. But
I
yeah,
think you should on it. I don't. People may frown upon this, but if this is what you're doing, this is very similar to what I'm doing. I highly recommend like a 5.5k Smurf if you can get one, because simply put, you don't want to play so below your level that the conceptual understanding of the people in your game is like not there. But you don't want to play your level because you're simply not going to mechanically play your heroes well enough that you'll just lose, right? So you need to play like a solid step down from your MMR, but not too far. Like you don't want to go to 3K because then the concepts don't even apply anymore. So I highly
yeah.
recommend if you're trying to do this to play on like a 5 or 5.5K Smurf account to practice your carry role. Because the fact is, you're 6.6K on your main. Are you a 6.6K carry player?
Nope.
Am I a 6.6? Am I a 7.7K Pugna player?
Nope.
No, that's why I'm playing on my 6.3k Smurf account because I'm not a 7.7k Pugna player. Like that's just how it is. So if you're trying to expand your horizons and work on other roles, I like I think it's incredibly detrimental for you to play on your main because you're just gonna lose. Like you're like what's gonna happen is you're gonna mess up the first 5 or 10 minutes so badly. And in this patch, what happens if you mess up the first 5 or 10 minutes badly?
Your game's over.
Your game is literally over. Like it's not like maybe we can come back. It is your impact on the ability to win the game is over. Like it's just over. You're hoping the other team messes up. You're hoping your team carries you. Whatever. Like your impact on the game is over. So you can't afford to play carry on your main account. That's just how it is. So that's my recommendation for that. Like I said though, don't draw. I don't think you should be playing 3.5k either. I don't think that'll help you. So aside from that, there's tons of questions to ask. Once again, I'll from the session you can like rewatch it, and it's up to you. But I highly recommend watching like the last like the advanced portions of all the stuff I have on like lane equilibrium and pulling and stuff because it is relevant to your tier. So, um, any other questions? Sorry.
No.
Cool. Thanks for signing up, man. I hope you know, good luck on your like learning core. Like I think it will help you a lot as a support player. And for anyone wondering here, that's what he's trying to do. He's just trying to. You're still planning to be a support player, right?
I think so for
Okay.
for a long time.
I'm going to tell you, I think it will help you a lot as a support player to understand core. Not only will it enhance your mechanics, but it also enhances your understanding of what to do as a support if you understand what your cores need. Like, if you know what a drow is supposed to do in terms of farming patterns, doesn't that help you ward and gank and
Yeah.
choosing fights and stuff? You know? So, and like what objectives to play around and when to defend, when not to defend. Because if you know what your cores want to do, you'll, as a support, you know how to enable them and stuff. So, right on, man. Yeah, thanks for signing up, and I wish you the best of luck, dude. And I'll see you later.
All right. Yep.
Bye. Okay.